I am so excited to share my latest resource, downloadable print your own flashcard decks. These have been created following my many years working with children of all abilities in the clinical setting. And my themed flashcard decks work. The kids love them because they're engaging and they encourage movement, learning, coping skills, and just plain fun. From dinosaurs to Halloween, each deck includes suggested and themed centering techniques, warm-ups, guided meditation, relaxation, yoga-based movement, and games. Each card in the deck includes multiple yoga-based practices to choose from, meaning you can enjoy a different experience each time you play, and there will always be something that's suitable and accessible for the child you are working with or the setting you are working in. These are highly adaptable tools, and they work in the classroom, hospital, office, or home setting. Download and print on card or paper stock of your choice and enjoy creative, adaptable, and accessible adventures for many years to come with children of all abilities and in all settings. I promise you will not regret adding a set of 2 of these to your resource collection. And keep checking in. I have created a lot of these decks over the many years I worked in the clinical setting with children of all abilities, and I'm slowly updating and releasing them to the public so that all children can benefit from these wonderful tools. Hi, I'm Lisa Roberts from Yo-Yo Yoga School, introducing session 24 of Movement, Meditation and Mindfulness, a training program for pediatric professionals, educators, and parents. So session 24 is an introduction to restorative yoga-based stretching for children. So what is restorative stretching? It's a very supportive, very therapeutic style of stretching. I like to call it passive stretching, where we utilize body position, props, and gravity to gently support and subtly stretch the body. It's deeply relaxing, it's very therapeutic, and it's good for everybody, not just kids. So, what are some of the benefits of restorative or passive style stretching? It's therapeutic and it's deeply relaxing. It's calming and centering for the mind and body. So you're getting benefits for the whole body. I like to say the soul as well, because it just feels fabulous after you've had a little restorative stretch. And sometimes this is what the body needs. Sometimes big, bold movements, lots of movements, is not what the body needs. It needs to slow down, it needs to restore, and that's where this style of practice is very helpful. But the body is still being supported, releasing muscles, and just getting a nice passive stretch, which can be very, very helpful. When we further along in this series, when we explore wellness, we'll be incorporating a lot of restorative style stretches to target specific outcomes in terms of wellness, from nausea to tummy troubles to headache, you name it. There's a lot of restorative style stretching that we will be referring to in this educational series. But back to today and the benefits of restorative style stretching. Deactivating the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight mode. And a passive and relaxing and restorative style stretch can actually deactivate that and help the body and mind relax and bring the body into a calmer state of the parasympathetic nervous system. And this can lower the heart rate, can lower blood pressure, it can lower cortisol levels. Cortisol is a hormone that's released with adrenaline when we are going into fight or flight. And this style of passive stretching is just so supportive. It can actually very quickly deactivate that and reduce blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol levels, and bring you out of that state of fight or flight and more into rest and digest or parasympathetic nervous system response. These deep postures support the body, gently expand and stretch the body in a supportive way, encouraging slow, deep, fuller breathing. They gently support and release physical tension. So we iron out all those kinks and knots, which helps to encourage deep relaxation. It can also positively impact quality of sleep. So a nice, gentle, I always advocate any kind of movement just to get the kinks out of the body. We can actually relax deeper. And this is just an even more meditative, calming, grounding way to achieve that result before you do some guided relaxation or just encourage a child to go into a deeper sleep. So this is really good practice for bedtime. So do kids need restorative style stretching? Absolutely, everybody benefits from restorative style stretching. It's a very subtle, gentle approach, and it's fabulous for kids to learn self-regulation skills, to develop inner reflection skills, to learn to value giving themselves permission to slow down and switch off and feel and be. It's a very good way to learn to practice meditation and relaxation. And again, just value these practices as a way to self-regulate and recharge the body. It's great for kids, I think, to experience a gentle, supportive, and therapeutic approach to stretching, particularly as children go into the teen and tween years where there's, a lot of body changes, a lot of tight muscles, needing to sleep a little longer with all the hormone changes, the extra workload at school, the extra stress at school, just to be able to have this gift of being able to stretch the body in a more passive, calming way, and to be able to switch off and rest and relax. And as children age and they need this more restorative style practice, to have that gift and have that ability to recognize what their body needs and to be able to nurture their body with something as beneficial as this practice is a really valuable tool for children to have. And also, like, teens and tweens and any age really, especially now, kids are on computers from a young age. So just to have the tools to be able to counter their stretches if they've been hunched over a computer or a game all day long, to be able to understand they can use a pillow to counter that shoulder hunching and just take a little bit of a rest is a very, very valuable tool for children to have moving forward in life. So will kids do it? Well, I think just like adults, once the benefits of restorative-based stretches is felt and experienced, kids actually ask for more. I have so many kids who, after I've demonstrated restorative style stretching, I have a hard time getting them to do more dynamic movement because they want to go straight to restorative because it just feels so yummy and so good. So some tips for working with the kids and young children: appealing to imaginations. So I'm going to demonstrate 4 yoga-based restorative stretches today, and I'll be showing you how I creatively rename them to appeal to imaginations. And just to hold children and engage them, I might tell a story, or maybe we'll just have a quiet little whispered conversation about whatever shape we're creating. For older kids, I may do some guided breathing or some guided meditation to go along with it, or even just listening to some music and allowing them to really settle and absorb and reflect inward. So it really depends on the age, but we'll explore that not only today in this introduction, but moving forward in the next 3 webinars. I'll be breaking down restorative style stretching by their category, and we'll be delving really deeply each week into a whole series of restorative style stretches, and I'll show you all of the little techniques I use to engage children, from the creative techniques to the appropriate breathing techniques to counter stretches. So that's coming up a little bit today, a little taste of it today, and then in the following next 3 webinars, we'll really be digging deep into this. So appropriate size props are very important. You may see I've got some props with me for the postures I'm going to demonstrate today, and these are adult size because these are for me. But you want to be aware when working with children, a chair, a regular chair may be too high. So we're always thinking, looking at what's in front of us and finding the appropriate tools so the child can be fully supported and still maintain correct alignment. So we'll be talking about that as we go, and as I demonstrate each posture, I'll be talking about alternative props that may be used to help support children of different size. And then, of course, educating kids, they're curious about their bodies. So perhaps discuss what the stretch is doing, or discuss their experience, how it feels for them, what it felt like for them, where they felt the stretch in their body, if it felt good, if it felt bad, and really involving the child in their practice while educating them about the benefits and the why behind what you're doing. So recommended hold times. If any of you have practiced restorative yoga or restorative yoga-based stretching, typical for adults, it can be up to 10 minutes holding one posture. Now, I don't recommend this for children. So 12 years and younger, I would do 1 to 3 minutes. Teens, 3 to 5, and young adults, 5 onwards. But you never start at the highest number. If the child's new to this style of stretching, definitely start small and incrementally build as you check in and see that the child's comfortable with this style stretching. I recommend counter postures, and I'll be demonstrating those throughout this 4-part series. Counter stretches for each posture, encourage breathing techniques for each one, and just checking in and just seeing how the child goes with each one. Also, we don't always go straight into restorative postures and long holds. Some little gentle warm-ups are very, very helpful. When we go ahead, I'm just demonstrating a couple of postures today, but when we go ahead further into the series and we're focusing on stretches per category, I'll really delve in then and show you some gentle warm-ups, some gentle little dynamic warm-ups that can be practiced before settling into these restorative-based stretches and the longer holds. So, enhancements. So, how can we make this experience as relaxing as possible? Dimming the lights, drawing the shades, placing a do not disturb sign on the door if possible, using music. So I like to use instrumental music. I find it's less distracting, but you can use nature sounds as well, a gentle classical piano, Disney instrumental, and you can even get instrumental covers of pop songs as well. Anything that's not going to be too distracting, but also helps to send the message to the nervous system, hey, it's time to calm down and relax. And we can do that with music, with sound, as much as we can, just the comfort of the props. Eye pillows. We've explored making our eye pillows in earlier parts of this webinar series. So making your own eye pillow before, or just using an eye pillow. You can even use just a folded up towel or face cloth, or even a tissue over the eyes. Covering the feet with socks. I got my socks on today because this is a very therapeutic practice. You'll notice I've got a heavy sweater. When the body relaxes, the temperature drops. So you want to be warm and cozy. No one wants to be miserable, freezing cold while they're holding a posture because they're not going to relax. So anything you can bring in to increase comfort, and just to have handy, an extra blanket to place over the body while the child's relaxing. Weighted blankets are especially good for children with sensory processing issues or differences, so that's something that you may want to have on hand. You can warm a blanket in the dryer. Lots of different ways you can enhance the relaxation experience using blankets. Of course, you can use aromatherapy. I can't stress enough that some people are sensitive to smell, so you really need to check in and bring that in only when appropriate. check for any contraindications for using aromatherapy oils, specific ones you're using, and always ask permission. Even when I'm teaching adults, I never just put aromatherapy on somebody. I always ask if it's okay. I ask the whole room if it's okay if I'm teaching a group, and then I will apply it with permission, because some people are just super sensitive to scents, and it's just something you don't want to bring into the session unless it's going to be well received and add to that element of relaxation. Including breathing techniques is very important, just to help encourage that deep relaxation and letting go, and introduce that mindfulness and meditation into this whole relaxation experience. Progressive relaxation is a wonderful tool during restorative style stretching. And for younger children, guided imagery or storytelling also works very, very well. So we're going to begin by exploring a restorative back bend. So you can see here we have, I've called it, it's a super supported fish pose. So traditionally in yoga, this is called fish pose, and this is super supported because there's an additional support under the knees. Now I've called it snoozing camel because of the hump that the knees make and then the chest makes in this pose, make it look like a camel. So for this particular pose, we're going to really get deeper into the benefits of back bends and restorative-based back bends and the wellness components further down the track in future webinars. But just for today, this particular posture gently stretches the chest and relieves low back and hip tension. So because it's camel, I've called this a camel, I recommend a breathing technique for kids would be flowing water. So where we follow each inhale and exhale like flowing water. And imagine those humps filling up with water for your camel. A counter stretch, which I will demonstrate after I've demonstrated the posture, is a tiny seed, reclined variation. And there's a caution on this one. You want to be, and you always want to be aware of cautions or contraindications for anything you're offering through mindful movement, meditation, and mindfulness. So this particular one, back or neck injury or inflammation, you want to keep away from that, because in back bends, we are lengthening the spine, we're stretching the front side of the body, but we are lifting up through, in this particular posture, the chest and the back and the neck. And you'll see when I get in and out of it, there's no graceful way. So you definitely want, you don't want any instability in the neck, because you can injure yourself getting in and out of this pose. So for today, I'm just going to move the chair out of the way. I have a small pillow. So this is just small enough just to support my head. I'm going to use a bolster, and this will align under my back into my mid-torso. So what we want, move this. I'm going to start by setting up my legs. So I'm going to place, I'm just using a rolled up yoga mat under my knees. So mine's small. You could use something as big as a bolster. You could use a pillow. You could use a folded up towel or blanket. So again, adjusting the height according to your needs and the needs of the person that you're working with. Now this, you can see it's right under my mid, and I'm just going to scooch it down a little. So it's under my shoulder blades here. And my upper arm, my armpit is just along the top. And this way my head will stretch back and I've got it resting on the pillow. So I'm not hyperextending my neck. And that makes it much more restorative than traditional fish. And then we would just hold here and relax. Now this is very supportive, very relaxing. I'm getting a nice stretch across my chest and shoulders, but I'm fully supported and relaxed as I'm doing so. And we would just hold and breathe here, perhaps talking to the child if they were very young about their camel. Maybe we would create a story about where the camel is going, where it's been, what it's like where the camel is. For maybe slightly older children, we would guide the flowing water breathing technique. And maybe
teens and young adults, I would just allow them to relax deeply in this pose and listen to music or follow their breath, or maybe perhaps do some guided progressive relaxation. Now, to come out of this, I like to bend my knees up, and I'm just gently rolling to one side and moving the bolster out of the way. I'm also going to remove the pillow, come back down onto my back, and hug my knees in. So this is tiny seed. It's basically child's pose on the back, and this is just a little reset. So back bends, the counter for back bends are forward bends. Child's pose traditionally is a forward bend, and I'm just doing that on my back. So I'm still getting the benefits of a forward bend, pressing the front side of the body, stretching the back, and turning my attention inward. And that's another benefit of back bends, just to retract back to that back bend. If you could look at the posture on the screen, the little character doing snoozing camel, she is open. So we're turning our attention outward. And that's the opposite of a forward bend, where we're turning our attention inward. So back bends are traditionally more energizing and opening, and forward bends are more calming and quieting. So we will move on to a forward bend. Here we go. So we're going to explore a restorative forward bend now, and we'll do supported child's pose. As you can see, the character's doing a supported child's pose, and I've called it snuggle bug. So that's another way to make it appeal to kids. Now, the name doesn't matter. You can come up with any creative name you like. It's just, as we've explored in previous webinars, when we're designing sessions for children, you're only ever limited by your imagination. So never get stuck naming it one thing. You can name it anything you like that makes sense and that appeals to and engages the child. So this is a very comforting and grounding posture. It lengthens the spine and releases tension in the neck and shoulders and lower back and hips. So this is also considered a hip stabilizing posture as well. Just going to focus on the forward bend aspect for today. Now, because this posture is a forward bend, we stretch the back side of the body in forward bends and compress the front side. So that awareness of the back is really prominent when we're doing a forward bend. So I encourage back breathing. That's where you're aware of the back expanding on the inhale and softening on the exhale. Really encourages deeper, fuller breaths. So this is a great posture to introduce that. The counter stretch is licorice legs, which I will demonstrate to you after I've demonstrated the posture. And then a caution here would be knee injury or inflammation. As you can see, we've got the knees bent and the body is on the knees a little bit. So if there was any knee injury or inflammation in the knee, I would not recommend practicing this. Also have to be aware of the neck, but I'll make a note of that as I demonstrate the posture. So for this particular one, and actually I'm going to switch to a full view, just so you can see what I'm demonstrating better. So I'm taking the knees out wide, and I'll come up on my knees so you can see my toes are touching and my butt is on the heels. And then I'm bringing my bolster, and you could use a pillow. Now, I'm going to come forward and rest my body on this, but that may be too deep a forward bend. So you could stack bolsters or pillows if you needed more height. You could also make like a little ramp as well. So I'm not going to do that today because I don't need it, and I want to really demonstrate the posture in full. So finding length and space on an inhale, on an exhale, I'm walking forward. I'm just resting my torso on the bolster. So we can take the stretch into the neck by dropping one ear and just fully relaxing here. And then, of course, if we do one way, we've got to do the other. So halfway through the hold. So if you're holding for 3 minutes, you would do 1.5 minutes on each ear, turn the other way. Now, if there was a caution for the neck, if there was a neck injury or just turning the head either way was uncomfortable, the option is to stack the hands and rest the forehead on the hands. What this does, by stacking the hands and resting the forehead, it leaves space for the nose. The nose isn't mushed against the bolster, so there's space to breathe. And this is the other way to do it. So just instead of turning the neck at all, you could just rest the forehead on the hands. Or you could do all three. You could start with the left ear, go to the right ear, and then neutralize in between. And again, working with a child, and I'll put the image back up because it might be easier for me to point or easier for you to imagine. So I've placed my hands on shoulder blades so the child can feel my hands gently resisting as they breathe, and we encourage that deep back breathing. If it's your child and you're the parent, you could do some massage in this posture. And just chatting for younger children about your snuggle bug. What is your snuggle bug dreaming about? And you could start, for the younger, really little children who may not engage in meditation, storytelling works very, very well. So you can make up a little story and whisper it. Always whisper, because then again, that's another nonverbal cue. Hey, we're going to relax. It's calm down time. But also just having a little conversation sometimes. I'm like, what does your snuggle bug look like? If the child tells me it has wings, tell me about your wings. Where does it fly? And you can just have this whole creative little conversation. And in that time, the child is so distracted with the story that they hold the posture for the therapeutic amount of time, or the amount of time that will gain them the therapeutic benefits of this deep relaxation posture. So what is the counter stretch for this one? We come out of the posture, and we want to extend our legs forward because they've been bent for a little while and we've had our hip weight on them. And we just do little licorice ropes. So I just do a little wiggle of the legs, and then we are done. So let's see what our next posture is. A restorative twist. So this particular restorative twist is a recline twist. It can be called recline knee down twist. It is a gentle low back and hip stretch. Illustrated, the little character here has taken the twist. So you see the twist is happening. So it's actually a twist of the low back and hips, but the full spine, it takes it into the full spine of the surgical spine when you turn the head as well. Once I get in the posture to demonstrate it, we'll discuss the alternative of not turning the head at all. That's also absolutely a viable option. So what have I called this twist? I've called it reclined twist. I've called it snoozing whale because we have a lovely whale here, and here is the whale tail. Could also be sleeping mermaid. Anything that's going to appeal to the child. So because I've named this one in this particular instance, snoozing whale, I'm going to encourage a breathing technique called flowing water again. So this is where I imagine the breath is just like those gentle lapping waves, just moving in and out, easy, graceful. And as my whale snoozes, perhaps we're talking about the different things it sees under the water and where it's floating to, and if there's treasure or shipwrecks. So there's lots of fun little stories you could create based on snoozing whale. I do have a counter stretch, and again, it's tiny seed. So anything where we're moving the spine, we want to proceed with caution in case of severe spine or back injury, or back pain or neck pain. So we want to be mindful there. So I'm actually going to use just a folded blanket today. And I'm going to demonstrate first before I talk about alternate props. So if I'm doing the twist, I'm not going to have a pillow under my head. If I'm not doing the twist of the cervical spine and I'm just looking straight up, there is the option to use the pillow. So I'm going to demonstrate both. So I'm coming down on my back, my knees are bent, and I'm taking my arms out in a T, palms down. My knees are bent, my feet are on the floor. Actually, I'm going to put my blanket on the other side. So I'm going to take an easy breath in, and as I breathe out, I'm dropping my knees over, and they're resting on the support of the blanket. Now, if my knees were only about here, I could add
If we want support, that is the whole point of restorative style stretching. So you could use the bolster and a blanket, stacking as high as you need to so that the legs actually rest and they are supported. So we don't want any holding on to the muscles here. We really want to encourage letting go. So we can hold here and breathe. Now, another way to support this, so we're stacking whatever we need here to support the legs as they fold over. Now, if this leg was sticking up more, I could place, again, a pillow, a bolster, a folded blanket in between the legs for additional support. And then, of course, if I'm just going to look straight up, we'll keep the legs there and the head straight up, and we can place a pillow. And I'm going to come through, breathe in, and breathe out, drop them the other way. And of course, I would move my support over here. And then, of course, if we are going to twist, we're moving the pillow and the knees, or the whale tail is pointing that way. So I would turn my head in the opposite direction. And then when we're ready to switch sides, breathing in through center, using an exhale, we move the props over, get set up, drop the legs, and turn the other way. And the counter, so I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what I'm doing. The counter stretch again is tiny seed. So we just come into a tiny little seed, curl up in a ball, and come up to a seated position. Okay. And then finally, this is a favorite of mine. It's a restorative inversion. So inversions are very calming. Typically, the legs are higher than the body. And this particular one I call snoozing calves, because the calves on the legs are on the seat of the chair. This is great for stress and anxiety relief. It relieves low back pain as well. As I said, it's just very centering and calming and relaxing. I place, just for extra cushioning, this chair is quite cushioned, but I am placing it on the yoga mat. That way it's not slippery. So you want to make sure if you're using a chair, it is on a non-slip surface, such as a yoga mat or a carpet. This is quite cushioned, so I wouldn't need it, but I just wanted to demonstrate in the event you had like a hard chair or, you know, a plastic school chair or something like that. Just the extra padding would be helpful. One thing you want to be mindful of, again, using props, making sure they're appropriate for the size of the person you're working with. So a small child, this chair, this is a regular chair, it may be too high, so you may need to use something else. And that may be stacked bolsters, or it may be some yoga blocks or books with a bolster over the top. That might be the correct height. You may need to use an adjustable table. There are other things you can do if you don't have a small child-sized chair and you only have an adult-sized chair and it's just too high to correctly and safely align and support the child. So that's something you definitely need to be mindful of. Obviously, this is the correct size for me today. So I'm just coming up, bringing my side nice and close to the chair, coming down on my back and swinging my legs up. And then I'm resting my calves, my snoozing calves on the chair. Then I'm gonna rest my hands on my belly here. And I've recommended for this particular restorative stretch, belly breathing. Because your belly is nice and exposed here, hands can rest on the belly. We can encourage those deep, full belly breaths and really feel the belly as we breathe into it and out. And that encourages deeper relaxation. And then of course our counter stretch. To come out of this one very easily, we could come into tiny seat again, and that just stretches the low back, and we can roll out and come to a seated position. So there we have it, an introduction to restorative based stretches for children. And you can see just by using a little bit of imagination, children can really reap the benefits of restorative style stretching and a therapeutic approach to stretching, and in a very creative way. And you can engage children creatively and encourage children to slow down, deeply relax, deeply stretch, deeply meditate, just with a little bit of creative thinking and age-appropriate storytelling or little whispered conversations, right through to graduating to a more adult-style practice where we're just relaxing on our own and enjoying the relaxation experience. So up next, we have session 25, and we'll be exploring restorative stretches for children, focusing on back bends and forward bends. And we'll really be delving into these, and I'll be demonstrating a series of restorative style back bends. So you'll have a whole toolbox full of different back bending postures, along with their targeted wellness benefits and their therapeutic benefits. Same for forward bends. And that will be a 45-minute webinar coming up on Friday. And I hope you join me. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon.